Hi, guys. Welcome back to Bar Exam. It's your girl, Allie Rayner, and I'm here with my amazing Bar Exam crew. Mr. Marcus TV, say hello to everybody.
Yo, what up, what up, what up?
And we're also here with Mr. Eric G. Say hello to the people. Uh-oh, did I mess up?
Oh shit! I thought that nigga
Right.
was high. He
What
froze.
You're so smart. Marcus thought like
No.
you were frozen and like your eyes were all slanted, so he thought you were high as hell or
Oh, did I
something.
freeze?
Yeah.
Yeah, for a second. You're good though. I think it's sort of working now. I don't know. Maybe like the connection will get better. But glad that you're here, with us. Anyway, guys, welcome back to
I
Bar
don't know what
Exam.
happened.
Yeah, I don't know. Welcome back to the show. This week, coming before the bar, we wanted to talk about the best soundtracks from movies. So we all picked some of our very favorite movies. And I guess, should we start off with Marcus? Because I think Marcus's is actually pretty interesting. Marcus, do you want to do yours?
Oh, sure, I'll go. I went with the classic. Everyone knows this Memphis iconic soundtrack, Hustle and Flow. You know, Terrence Howard, DJ. Is an up and coming pimp. Well, he wasn't even want to say up and coming. He was a pimp who was trying to aspire to be a rapper, and this
Right.
was his version of him coming up in the Memphis music scene. And the soundtrack that it provided is literally iconic Memphis. Because it had Al Capone, it had Lil Jon, it had Juicy J, it had DJ Paul. It had so many Memphis sounds that you can't go wrong. And I mean, it won a Grammy, so it's
Yeah.
not. Not. I'm sorry, not a Grammy. It won an Oscar. Let me refer. And I believe it's the only hip hop song to win an Oscar.
Hmm.
I
I don't
That's still
know.
one of the craziest things to ever happen.
Yeah, I don't think any hip hop song has won an Oscar since. They were the first one to win an Oscar since.
Mm.
Yeah, I have to double check that, but I'm
Right.
pretty sure. If no one else has done, I know they were the first. So shit. Either way, they got
Okay.
an Oscar. You know, but even the fact that in the scene when they came up with "Whoop That Trick," the Memphis Grizzlies still today on their play that song as the theme song for the team. In the
No
arena.
way.
Yeah.
Wow.
You have 50,000 fans of all cultures yelling "Whoop that trick!" And it is a. I mean, is revolutionary the right word? I doubt that. It's not. It's just great to see like the South come together like that, especially in in a city like Memphis.
Yeah.
So
And I feel like because it was such like a raw and kind of gritty kind of movie, I mean, I think like you already said, the guy was a pimp and then he was an aspiring rapper. And then I remember him having like these women around him who were trying to like lift him up and like help him with his money. But then he was like tricking them out. It was kind of crazy. So you're right. Like for them to turn around and like end up winning an Oscar for such a interesting story from like the Black perspective, was is definitely iconic and different. So I thought it was interesting that you picked that one, but I'm glad that you did because there is actually, really great history there because they did win an award for it. So
and it still has a lot of lyrics are still true today. It's still hard out here for a pimp, especially when you're trying to get the money for the rent.
that was
Like,
probably one of my favorite scenes. Doesn't it have like Taraji P. Henson in it
yeah,
and Terrence Howard? I can never remember the girl, the white girl with the braids. I can never remember her name, but she's an awesome actress as well. But Taraji was the one who I think did that part though in
and then they
that
had
iconic
Anthony
scene.
Anderson on the key, and oh my god, now I got to go back and find the white boy who was who actually did the mixing part.
Okay.
He's in another good movie that I like, The Core, and he was the hacker. I can't even think of what his name was. But if you really want to go back, he was oh shit, he was in that Tom Green movie too, and he was with this big chick, and he was like, I boinked her. That was like, what did you do? Skin a chin? He's like, I boinked her. I gotta go find that dude's name. But he was funny as shit too. But yeah, Hustle and Flow soundtrack was that, and it also had no skips. Let's not it didn't.
You know, I gotta go back and listen to it because I just remember those songs that you were just talking about, like "It's Hard for a Pimp" and the other one, "Whoop That Trick, Stomp That Hoe."
Then it also had it had Still Tipping, the Mike Jones, It's a Man's World remix, but it still had Mike Jones on it, and it had, let's see, who else do they have that was just crazy that you just didn't believe that was on there? Oh, it had a lot of Al Capone, and if you're not a Memphis crunk person, like the Duke Deuces, the Al Capones, that underground, like it's Al Capone never had a real like I always compare, like Twista was always underground, and then like Slow Jams made him commercial, but he was still underground. You know, Al Capone was the same way. He was underground. Then the soundtrack came out and put him on the forefront, but he still was always an underground even after this. He still never really went mainstream. So it had a lot of Al Capone in this entire, soundtrack. So if you're an Al Capone fan, or if you didn't know who Al Capone was, he's featured all throughout this soundtrack.
Okay, that's awesome. Like, you find artists that way, especially because it became such a big movie, and like you said, like it really put him out there, I feel like, and Memphis in general. So that's awesome. But thank you, Marcus, for your pick.
Big Memphis.
Now, Big Memphis, not the little one. All right, so Eric, how about your pick? What did you choose?
So for my pick, I decided to go with a classic movie soundtrack. And I chose this one in particular because I feel like this soundtrack in particular is like one of those that really encompasses a lot of what was really popular at the time, and also kind of gives you a glimpse into like who is about to really be like the people that are in the forefront as far as like hip hop and making these types of records. And for me, I chose the Space Jam soundtrack. And I chose the Space Jam soundtrack because kind of like Hustle and Flow, there's not any skippable songs on this project either. Like, you can tell that they really took their time as far as putting together a cohesive body of work, all the way from just the way that the project starts. I think Fly Like an Eagle by Seal is probably, like, if you were to make a top 100 song list, it would probably be up in like the high 50s to me. The song it's just one of those songs that, like, as soon as it comes on, everyone kind of recognizes that pattern, that cadence. Like, I think that this is one of those that is like, the second that you hear it, it's instantly recognizable from all types of ages. I think that's one of those ones. Even though the person is very controversial, you got to put I Believe I Can Fly up there. That's one of those that as soon as you hear that, everyone knows exactly what song that is too. So you got to put that up there. The song in particular that I wanted to talk about, though, is Hit 'Em High. I think that that's one of the best posse cut songs on a movie soundtrack probably ever. You got Be Real, you got Coolio, you got Method Man, you got LL Cool J, and you got Busta Rhymes.
Wow.
And I can't, like, after listening to it, I can't really tell you who has the best verse. It's probably between Method Man and Busta, though, after going back and listening to it. But I encourage people to go back and listen to that, because the whole song they're just talking about, like it's very on topic with the movie, and you'll just get a kick out of like just seeing the parallels and how they like made their verses coincide right along with the movie. So I really like that. And then the other song that I wanted to talk about was the Bugs Bunny song, because Jay-Z wrote that song. And the whole time he's basically impersonating Bugs Bunny. And again, it's one of those other great songs where, like, when you really listen to it and really look at the words, like the "Who got Bugs Bunny money? I'll give you some time to get more carrots every time I rhyme." Like, I can hear Jay-Z writing that down. Like, I can definitely hear him in the studio. Like, all right, how am I gonna put this together as Bugs Bunny? So I think he did a really good job on that record. And again, I just think that this is one of those soundtracks that it's timeless. You can put it on whenever and it doesn't sound dated.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good pick. I think it's an interesting one, especially because there is like a now the new Space Jam, but I feel like you can't ever touch the first one, obviously, but then also all these songs that you said, you know, I can't like R. Kelly's I Believe I Can Fly, like that was a huge hit for a very long time. I can't even remember how many. I think it went platinum or something, like, and I don't doubt it went like a couple times, because that was a very big song. And then I completely forgot that it originated from that movie, you know, and that was like a part of a lot of people's like childhood and stuff. So even though, you know, he's controversial now, I think the movie is still amazing, you know, and you can feel however you want about the artist, you know, but the song is still pretty huge as well. And you said Seal, like, man, that was his smash hit. I don't know if Seal ever was able to make a song nearly as amazing or get as close to numbers with that song, but that was, that's definitely a classic song for sure.
It came close in Batman.
Did it?
You know that what's that? Oh, oh shit.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. He came close. Yeah.
Actually, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right.
Close. You're right.
Yeah, he came close.
He did come close.
Pretty damn
he came close. Because I actually,
which is a very hard feat to do.
I actually remember him more from Batman than I forgot he was on the soundtrack for until we talked about this show. I remember Seal more from Batman than Space Jam, because I always gave Space Jam to R. Kelly. I believe nothing topped I Believe I Can Fly. I mean, even I mean, and then just think about how we are ahead of the curve. I mean, we were children and we were so insensitive because we remember that we all remixed that I Believe She's a Guy.
What?
Like
that was I got shot by the FBI. Remember
it was all kind of
it
was all kind of things. You know how we were ahead of our time then?
That shit was so much fun when you were a kid. And then it was like, how the fuck did all these kids like decide this song is what we're gonna remix? I don't understand.
Right. Like, why was I Believe I Can Fly the one?
Yeah.
So. No, I guess you could rhyme a whole lot of shit on it. I think that's why.
I guess.
Still a classic for sure. Yeah. But okay, thanks for your pick, Eric. Definitely interesting. Okay, so for my pick, I decided to choose Black Panther, the soundtrack that basically Kendrick Lamar was on top of. And it was honestly, I listened to the whole thing again today and I was just like, wow, like if you listen to this soundtrack without even watching the movie, I think you'd still completely enjoy it. You could ride around in it, you know? Some of these songs ended up being in the clubs for a very long time. Like Big Shot was in the club for a long time. Which one? X with Schoolboy Q and 2 Chainz. That was in the club for a second. I think there's another one. I don't know if King's Dead was in the club. I think it was though, with like Future and J Rock on it and James Blake. But yeah, a lot of hits on here. He also had SZA with All the Stars, and that was kind of the one that really I feel like was like the main song that you heard a lot throughout the movie and even in like the ending credits. And I felt like it really did fit. And honestly, the whole soundtrack seriously tied into the movie so well. And I think it really represented like a different type of sound. Like it sounded really nice, like commercially, but at the same time, I thought it was unique that they added in some of those like drums and like some of the like African tones that they had in the background of like the movie. and like some of like the chants and stuff like that, and how he like weaved it into different soundtracks and or different songs and all that. So I thought it was just really well done, and he had so many big names on here. You know, I already named off a few of them. There was Vince Staples, Georgia Smith. I think there was also somebody, Absol, Anderson .Paak. Like, I really felt like with this one, they definitely, I feel like Kendrick and maybe even like the director kind of went into this very intentionally, like not trying to be like, I know we're doing a Disney movie, so we're gonna make music that sounds like basically white people wrote it for black people, but instead it's definitely like, this is definitely a work of black art, you know. And I think I don't know, I think you could easily listen to this and this could live on its own without the movie, but with it also being in this movie that's from Disney, that they've definitely changed and they've escalated over time, you know, with they've been more progressive, I mean, over time. But I think that this was really surprising, this whole soundtrack, because if you really listen to it, they still cuss and they talk about like Xannies and they talk about, you know, a lot of stuff in this music, but I still felt like it was very authentic, you know, and I think that Kendrick did a great job on it. The one thing that I thought was most interesting off of the song Big Shot with, I think it was like Travis Scott on it as well. But what I thought was really interesting was when he said, okay, he's talking about like a car. So he says, Big Shot, peanut butter insides, outside, cocaine white, body look like Gentiles. I was really surprised that that like actually stayed in. And like, I think I remember like hearing that part like in the movie somewhere. And I was like, okay, Disney, like y'all didn't, you know, censor him too much, you know. I think they were strategic in other parts, and with other songs, they kind of weaved them in and probably didn't put in all the explicit shit as much. But with this one, I was like, okay, like y'all just let it slide, and I'm okay. I'm here for it, I guess. But what did you guys think about this soundtrack?
I mean, Black Panther is iconic for so many different reasons. The fashion, you know, the acting, you know, the soundtrack does the movie no disservice. It pulls its own weight. And you said that your first line, you said, if I listen to the soundtrack without watching the movie, it's still a top tier soundtrack. Yeah. So the fact that the movie was phenomenal, the soundtrack actually gets lost because you don't almost pay attention to it because of the acting was so good, the fashion was so good, the directing was so good, the sentimentality, like everything else in the movie was so good, and it was so much representation across the board that, you know, it's like you can tell that they didn't run out of money at the soundtrack stage. Like, oh yeah, just throw some on there. No, they went full on. If we're gonna invest in other parts, we're gonna invest in the soundtrack too. So I was actually proud of Disney, you know, in that moment, because they didn't do it. This was not a disservice. This was a full on, you know, you have all the keys to the castle, all the, you know, whatever you need to make a great iconic film. And they definitely hit the ball, I mean, out of the park with it.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. What do you think, Eric?
I agree with everything you guys just said. And I'll take it a step further. I would compare this album to another soundtrack that is not really officially a soundtrack, but it's the American Gangster album by Jay-Z. And the reason I'm making that comparison is because of kind of what you just said at the beginning too, Allie. I agree with that a lot too, and how you can listen to this project and get lost in it and forget that it's even a soundtrack for a movie. If you listen to American Gangster by Jay-Z, it's basically the exact same thing, and it might as well just be soundtrack number 2. Because there's skits that are playing throughout it, there's themes that he's matching up with a lot of the songs, and Kendrick did this also really, really well with the Black Panther soundtrack. The biggest difference is that he's not on every song like how Jay-Z is on American Gangster. That's really the only difference. He brought in other people that he thought would fit the vibe of what he was going for with certain records. That's really the only difference to me. They still, but I look at both of them as like geniuses in this moment because they took a concept that was already there and just amplified it and made it into something that is pretty much its own separate entity, even though it's still linked to it.
Right.
So that's why I think the Black Panther soundtrack is so good, because again, you can really get a vibe for it without even really noticing that you're even listening to an actual movie soundtrack.
Yeah. And it definitely sounded cohesive in that aspect too. Like some songs, you know, stand out a little bit more because they were trying to give you that different like scenery or like that different vibe. But because like they have so many like Kendrick is like woven throughout, you know, and then like they have other artists also woven throughout as well. So I think even the sound still like was really cohesive, and that's how you get lost in it. And you're like, wow, like this sounds just like one of his bodies of work, you know, one of his regular albums that he really, really thought through. And that's why I really appreciated it, honestly. Like Marcus said, you could tell that they took their time with it and that they put the money, you know, where it really needed to be. And I feel like it was still a really great representation of Black artists and, you know, amazing music. So I think that I was really, really proud of this one. And I feel like a lot of people around the world, you know, a lot of the Black community was definitely proud of the soundtrack, but obviously the movie itself. So that's why I had to pick this one. I feel like it was probably one of the more like the newer movies that was iconic and had an amazing soundtrack. But yeah. A lot of the songs that were on the soundtrack were actually very much in the movie, but now a lot actually with this one and other soundtracks, there are songs on here that didn't actually make the cut to the movie, you know? So did you guys notice like, you know, that shift?
So I actually did notice that, and because I was gonna pick this movie, but then it really wasn't hip hop, it was more R&B, and that was actually the Bodyguard soundtrack with Whitney Houston. You know, I was like, it's all throughout. That is, I mean, and it's not even, it's because it's the Bodyguard soundtrack and she was clearly in the movie, but it's not considered part of her body of work albums, but it's still considered her, you know, it's her music, but it was in the you know, in the actual movie that, you know, like, oh, this is Whitney and this is, you know, the standard Whitney, and these were not filler songs, you know, this was Whitney being Whitney. So that was definitely one that was on my radar when we were researching this, that I was like, I want to make the Bodyguard, but that's why I settled on Hustle and Flow because of the Oscar, you know, and I don't, you know, she was nominated, but she didn't, you know, get this. But definitely like the Bodyguard 2 was a movie that I feel like the artist was represented in the movie on the acting side and also on the soundtrack side.
Okay. Honestly, I can't even lie. The other day I was talking about the like movies I haven't seen, and I mentioned The Bodyguard to somebody, and they were like flipping out. I know, and that was the same reaction that they gave me.
Man.
I know, Marcus. I know it's ridiculous. Honestly, I don't know how that one just like slipped past me. I don't know if it was because of age. I don't know if it was because like I didn't know if maybe there something explicit in it. Like maybe my parents didn't want me to see something like a sex scene or something. But that was just one that I. Yes, absolutely. Now my mom is a huge Prince fan, so she was not letting that shit go by. But I'm actually surprised that that she never introduced me to this, because I don't know if she was a huge Whitney fan. I feel like we all are though, like in some ways, you know. But with Prince, that was never gonna happen. She was definitely gonna make me watch Purple Rain, and it was a great movie. I can't lie. At first, when I was younger, I was like, "This is confusing as hell," but now I get it.
For taking a bath in Lake Winnetonka.
Wow.
You sound just like him. But Eric, what did you think? Do you think that nowadays, like it kind of goes more like the songs that are actually on, you know, the soundtrack don't always make it to the movie? You know, is it because of time? Like, what do you think it is?
I think it's a little bit because of time, but I also think that when they pick certain singles from soundtracks, you'll hear that song like repeatedly a few times in a movie, whereas back then it would be way more spread out. Like you would hear you would hear pretty much almost the entire soundtrack, but you would just hear it in spurts. Like yeah, maybe part of the song would play, but like you wouldn't get the entire record. Like sometimes they would let it go a little bit longer than others, but they would still find a way to fit every song into the movie. Whereas nowadays I feel like if they pick out a certain single that like they love, that they feel like really represents the film, they'll let that single run like maybe 2 or 3 times in the movie and then pick out like a couple of other songs off of the project rather than just going through the entire thing. So I've definitely noticed that. Just in especially a lot of like the big blockbusters, like all the like the Fast series movies, like they do that a lot. Like a lot of those type of films, like they'll pick like that one song that's going and they'll just kind of stick with that.
Yeah, that's true. And they definitely did it for, you know, Black Panther, because even the title is Black Panther, the album, music from and inspired by. So I guess he decided to finish the entire album with other inspired work and stuff like that. But like you said, like the song All the Stars, I feel like that one popped up a lot in the movie. And then King's Dead, and then I think Big Shot maybe a couple of times. So you're right, like they definitely, I think that they listened to it and they were like, these are the ones. And I feel like those songs, he was a little bit more specific. Like you could tell that was definitely probably like more about the movie. Those lyrics meant more, you know, to do with like the scenes and what was going on at the time. So it makes sense. But yeah, I think it's interesting, you know, and I don't know if maybe that trend will keep going on in the future. I guess we just have to see. But I think that we picked some really good soundtracks, honestly. You know, I'm actually going to go back and listen to Hustle and Flow and maybe put on some Seal. Okay. I can't lie.
Have you seen Django?
Yes.
Okay, the Django soundtrack. For sure. Okay, I just needed to make. I'm always surprised at what you haven't seen.
I know. I think I do need to like sit down.
I've
and
seen
just, like,
Django
have a
too many
marathon.
times.
Yeah, Django.
Yeah, I feel like Django. I think I even saw that like that for some reason started going like everywhere. I feel like TBS picked it up for a long time, and I kept seeing Django on there, and I was like, damn, like that was actually kind of more of an extreme movie. I was surprised it was everywhere.
But when Ross came through with that 100 black coffins, hey, the whole theater was like, I got 100 black, like that. That was a movie. Like that.
Yeah.
That
you
shit.
know, I actually
that
was
so like, hard, man.
Hearing about him doing that, like at clubs, like when I was in Cleveland, he showed up, and I guess like they had like this coffin. They had brought a coffin for him where they could put all the bottles or whatever, and they were supposed to just like pass it up to him and give him like an Ace of Spade bottle or whatever, and then like all the other Hennessy bottles and champagne bottles were supposed to be given back, and instead people got too crazy and like they like stole all the bottles. So people were in the crowd drinking Ace of Spades and shit, and like I guess Ross thought it was hilarious. But yeah, that definitely was an iconic ass song for sure. It definitely got the people going. So shout out to Rick Ross. Honestly, Marcus, do people give you those jokes a lot? Do people be giving you shit?
Yeah, because of the bird? Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna send it's that in Muslim. Like, what? Man, you be surprised who start speaking Muslim. And I mean,
really?
Man, you are the prophet of the Likia. Oh my God, brother. Like it's like coming to America almost like, oh my God, brother, I did not know. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like it
start speaking Arabic to you, and you're like, "What? No, not me."
You're like, "Bro, what are you saying?"
Yeah, like they come in with the Kevin Gates hands and shit. They're
just trying to accept you. They're just trying to bring you into the fold.
Yeah, and it gets very, very weird. sometimes.
They're just trying to love you. That's all that is.
Man.
But anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know if there's any soundtracks that you felt like maybe we missed out on. And those are some of the even more iconic movies that have amazing soundtracks as well. Put them in the comments for us. And remember to watch us every Monday, and we will see you on the next one. This is Barzan. Bye, guys.